Thucydides' history of the Peloponnesian War is a crucial primary source for understanding the conflict between Athens and Sparta, which took place from 431 to 404 BCE. This war was not merely a struggle for power between two prominent city-states, but a clash of ideologies, ways of life, and political systems. Athens represented a democratic and maritime power, while Sparta upheld a militaristic, oligarchic, and land-based society. The history offers not only a record of events, but also insights into the moral and ethical dilemmas of war, with Thucydides' emphasis on power dynamics, human nature, and the often irrational motives driving states and individuals. Background and causes. Thucydides begins by identifying long-standing tensions and specific provocations as catalysts for the war. The Peloponnesian League, led by Sparta, grew wary of Athens' growing influence and ambition, which was evident after the Persian Wars, when Athens transformed the Delian League into an empire. Athens' wealth, naval supremacy, and imperialistic tendencies alienated its allies and incited fear in Sparta and other Peloponnesian cities, who felt threatened by its dominance. Thucydides points out that while the immediate cause of the war may have been trivial disputes over allies and conflicts such as those in Corcyra, modern-day Corfu, and Potidæa, the underlying cause was the growth of Athenian power and the fear which this caused in Sparta. Key phases of the war. Thucydides divides the conflict into distinct phases, with each phase demonstrating shifts in strategies, alliances, and objectives. The Archidamian War, 431 to 421 BCE, was the first major phase, named after the Spartan king Archidamus II, who led the initial invasions of Attica. Sparta relied on its superior land army, ravaging the Athenian countryside and trying to force Athens into submission. However, the Athenians, under the leadership of Pericles, adopted a defensive strategy, staying behind the city's walls, relying on their navy for supplies, and launching raids along the Peloponnesian coast. This strategy was effective in maintaining their resistance, but led to overcrowding in Athens, causing a devastating plague that killed thousands, including Pericles. The death of Pericles marked a turning point, as Athenian politics became increasingly factionalized, and leaders like Cleon took a more aggressive stance. This phase culminated in the Peace of Nicias in 421 BCE, an uneasy truce that soon broke down due to the inability of either side to enforce it, leading to renewed hostilities. The Sicilian expedition and Athenian hubris. One of the most dramatic moments in Thucydides' account is the Sicilian expedition, 415 to 413 BCE, a costly and ultimately disastrous campaign for Athens. Alcibiades, a charismatic and ambitious Athenian leader, persuaded the assembly to launch an expedition against Syracuse in Sicily, hoping to expand Athenian influence in the west. Thucydides saw this decision as driven by a dangerous mixture of overconfidence and imperial ambition, often critiquing the Athenians for their hubris and recklessness. The expedition was a catastrophe. Alcibiades defected to Sparta after facing accusations of sacrilege in Athens, and the leadership of the expedition faltered. The Athenian forces in Sicily, under the command of Nicias and Demosthenes, were surrounded and destroyed by the Syracusans and their allies. This defeat had severe repercussions, as it drained Athens of resources, ships, and manpower, undermining its position in the war. For Thucydides, the Sicilian expedition symbolized the dangers of unchecked ambition and the fallibility of democratic decision-making when driven by emotions rather than reason. Final phase, the Ionian or Decelean War. The final phase of the Peloponnesian War, known as the Ionian or Decelean War, was marked by a shift in the strategic landscape and the involvement of the Persian Empire. Sparta received financial and military support from Persia, allowing it to build a navy to challenge Athenian supremacy at sea. With Persian gold funding, the Spartan fleet, and the general Lysander's tactical skill, the Spartans posed an increasingly significant threat to Athens. At the same time, internal divisions within Athens intensified, leading to a brief period of oligarchic rule under the government of the 400 and 411 BCE. Although democracy was soon restored, the city remained weakened by political instability exacerbated by growing discontent over the prolonged conflict. The decisive blow came at the Battle of Aegospotami in 405 BCE, where Lysander's forces annihilated the Athenian fleet, effectively cutting off Athens from its vital grain supplies. The following year, Athens surrendered to Sparta, ending the war with the city's capitulation and the imposition of an oligarchic government known as the 30 Tyrants. Themes in Die Tyrants. Thucydides' history is not just a recounting of events, but a profound exploration of human nature and the consequences of power. His analysis of the war examines the darker aspects of humanity, highlighting how ambition, fear, and the desire for power can lead to disastrous decisions and moral decline. The work is peppered with speeches, one of Thucydides' rhetorical devices for presenting the perspectives and motivations of key figures and city-states. These speeches, like Pericles' funeral oration, articulate ideological justifications for the war and serve as reflections on broader themes such as democracy, patriotism, and human resilience in the face of adversity. A significant aspect of Thucydides' analysis is his view of realism in international relations. He presents the idea that in a world governed by power rather than moral considerations, states act primarily in their self-interest. This perspective is vividly illustrated in the Melian dialogue, where Athenian envoys bluntly tell the neutral Melians that the strong do what they can and the weak suffer what they must. The dialogue demonstrates the ruthlessness of Athenian imperialism and serves as a critique of the notion that justice can prevail in the relations between states. Another recurring theme is the impact of war on society and individuals. Thucydides emphasizes how the long conflict eroded traditional values, leading to moral degradation, increased brutality, and factional strife. His descriptions of civil wars in places like Corcyra portray a society where the norms of justice, loyalty, and respect for human life have broken down, replaced by a culture of suspicion, betrayal, and revenge. Thucydides' methodology and legacy. Thucydides approached his work with an unprecedented level of critical rigor and skepticism, rejecting myth and legend in favor of a factual, evidence-based account. He collected eyewitness testimony, consulted various sources, and sought to verify the accuracy of his information, setting a standard for historical writing that remains influential. Thucydides famously claimed that he wrote his history as a possession for all time, intending his work to serve as a lesson for future generations about the dangers of hubris, the instability of human affairs, and the often destructive consequences of war. In the centuries since its completion, the history of the Peloponnesian War has had a lasting impact on philosophy, political science, and military strategy. Thinkers from Hobbes to Nietzsche have found inspiration in Thucydides' examination of power and morality, while modern political realists regard him as a foundational figure. The lessons of the Peloponnesian War continue to resonate in contemporary discussions about the ethics of war, the dynamics of power, and the nature of human ambition. Thucydides' history of the Peloponnesian War remains a powerful and enduring work, not only for its detailed account of the war between Athens and Sparta, but for its insights into the complex interplay of human motives, political ideologies, and the fragility of power. The Peloponnesian War was a tragic conflict that reshaped the ancient Greek world, leading to the eventual decline of Athens and the weakening of the Greek states, paving the way for the rise of Macedon. Through his narrative, Thucydides warns of the perils of hubris, the often immoral nature of international relations, and the corrosive effects of prolonged conflict on individuals and societies. His work endures as a timeless meditation on the challenges of leadership, the unpredictability of human affairs, and the difficult balance between justice and power.